And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Irv Homer Show. It's Friday, April the 17th, 2009. What's that music?
Sorry.
Don't feel bad. We had a glitch at the regular radio station today. WBCB 1490 AM is where I broadcast Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And that is a commercial radio station. And they're also streamed and received calls from Texas this week. And the station has 1,000 watts, so we were kind of proud that we have listeners all over the country. We're broadcasting the Irv Homer Show from irvhomer.com. You can check my website out from time to time, www.irvhomer.com. You can email me at evilirv@irvhomer.com. And once again, RGH Computer Services put this package together. We'll answer your telephone calls if you have a computer problem, but do service on your computers and can set this type of operation up in your place of business, in your home, or if you just want to become a part of the network that goes all around the world, Facebook and all that other good stuff. And we receive email from all over the world, may I add. And the program is growing. Wednesday night's program received the biggest rating that we've had since doing the program because I was outraged at the time, and the outrage has not stopped. The misinformation, the omission of information on radio today is more dangerous than the propaganda that is put out. I'll just start with this torture report that was released by the Obama administration, where the president says that this type of torture, quote, will come to an end, and release the report. And of course, all the bloviators, and I intend to do something probably in about a week or two called the Bloviator Update. Since I am a talk show freak and listen to talk radio most of the day, sometimes I have to turn it off because it is so stupid and so much misinformation that I've decided to give you a Bloviator update, probably starting in about a week or so, of idiotic and stupid things that people are listening to, including the big Tea Party. There will be a Tea Party Sunday at Washington's Crossing. There will be a Tea Party at Independence Hall in Philadelphia starting 12 o'clock tomorrow on Saturday. I will not be there. I drink tea, I don't wave bags. And so there will be catharsis in Philadelphia and at Washington's Crossing this weekend. And everybody will bring their little flags and their little bags and protest the Obama administration. Of course, the dialogue has changed now on this tea bag business. That we're not against taxes, we're just against the way they're spent. That's like saying we're against the war, but we support the troops. Remember how people were criticized for that? Well, the nonsense that they're not against taxes, they're just against the way they're spent. I mentioned, I will repeat, that if you have a beast and you want to starve it, you don't feed it. Well, apparently the beast is the government under the Obama administration. And so all of these brave people that demonstrated April the 15th around the country, waving their little flags and holding up their protest signs, still by midnight, April the 15th, they fed the beast. And reading the Constitution of the United States, which I doubt very much whether any of the teabag waivers ever read, it states specifically in there that Congress will appropriate the money and the president can spend it any way he wants to. It's right here in the book, right here in the Constitution of the United States. So if you can explain to me, ladies and gentlemen, how you can feed the beast and expect to kill him, I don't know. Maybe one of you folks are a lot smarter than I am and I will be able to agree with you or disagree with you. We do have a telephone line here. That number is 215-253-8877. We also have a chat room if you're just joining us for the first time. We welcome our listeners and our viewers. We welcome the telephone calls. And this is a different type of program than anything you hear anywhere else. And I know a lot of people say that, but I defy anyone to show me where a program like this is heard anywhere in the United States.
It's Howard.
Let's go to the telephones and see who's on the line. Good evening, sir, ma'am, whoever you may be.
I made a grown man cry on Easter Sunday.
I'm sorry you did that, sir.
Well, I think it was a good awakening. When I had the awakening that this man had, I was angry as hell.
And you're not going to
I'll tell
take
you
it.
what happened.
Okay, please do. Your first name, please.
Howard.
Who?
Howard.
Howard. Okay, Howard.
How are you, Irv?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
I am angry.
Okay.
I am angry. I am bewildered. Not exactly befuddled, but I am more than annoyed, and I'm frustrated. And I'll tell you why. I didn't make him cry. He made himself cry. But I actually brought somebody to bawling tears on Easter Sunday because I convinced him of the 9/11 was an inside job. I didn't convince him of who did it, but I convinced him that it could not have happened the way it was said. And when he had the realization that he couldn't go back and that what he thought was true, but he had doubts, when the doubts were gone, this man literally burst out bawling. And I want to get you to that point. I don't want to make you cry on the radio, but I want to get to the point where you agree with me, and I'm going to tell you why. Because a government that can kill 3,000 of its people, usurp their rights, use it as a springboard to rape the Constitution, is a government of pure evil. And I don't find any difference between Obama's government or George Bush's government. In fact, I see them as so similar that if you didn't know that Bush wasn't in office, I think he was still there. Agree?
Let me hear your whole dissertation before I agree or disagree, Howard.
Okay. I don't believe that Obama runs the country. I don't believe that Bush ever ran the country. I think that men, maybe the Bilderbergers, maybe people above the Bilderbergers that we don't know about, I think that this country is run by the financial people and it's being looted right now. The last act of a despotic government is to loot the country. And we're so ignorant in this country that we think that it's not possible, that it couldn't be done here. I shudder when I hear never again spoken by Jews. They say never again, never again, never again. But it happens over and over again. And while everybody is lamenting, we'll remember the Holocaust, let's remember what happened in Czechoslovakia and what happened in Russia and what happened in Italy. It's not just Germany, but it's going to happen here. This country is being decimated and looted right in front of us. And it's not being done by Obama. I don't believe that man's smart enough to do this. He made all his promises during the campaign that he was going to put the Patriot back in the Patriot Act, that he was going to free the people in Guantanamo. He's done nothing of the sort. In any of those things, he has done the status quo, where he has been continually enslaving the American people piece by piece, but he's doing it in a financial tsunami. They have spent in 6 months the entire GDP of the United States. How is it that anybody who has a brain in their head doesn't believe that the dollar is going to crumble? And I mean hyperinflation like the Weimar Republic. How is it not going to happen? I listen to Alex Jones all the time. He's well-sourced. He's a little bit difficult to take with a gravelly voice, but his information is out there and it can be verified. And I listened today to what I think was the tsunami of Alex Jones, and that was Raleigh James on Alex Jones. And I heard things out of Raleigh James' mouth that I never heard before. And I certainly haven't listened to her show in a while. And most of the time she's talking to the truckers back and forth. But today on the Alex Jones show, she was talking about the Bank of International Settlement, the Basel II Accord, why gold is not the hedge, what they're doing with gold. And I didn't exactly understand it. But I didn't think that they were going to leave gold. And I've always asked the question, okay, so you buy gold, and then the dollar goes to hell. The dollar is worth like what the Venezuelan bolivar is worth. It's worth nothing. What are you going to do with the gold? Who's going to take the gold when there's no more dollar, when the dollar is worth literally peanuts, not even cents, but less than cents? Where are you going to go? And I'm looking at all of this, and I'm thinking, you know what? We're not outraged enough. We don't believe that the government is evil enough as it is. And I look on Drudge Report a day or two ago, and they say that somebody who believes in states' rights is a possible terrorist. Or is a terrorist. Did you see that?
I'm aware of it from 1980. I didn't need Drudge to report that.
Oh, but right, Irv. I have been involved with the libertarians, with the people that were offshoots of the libertarians. We talked about everything that's been going on today, but we talked about it 15 years ago. After 9/11, everything increased in speed. The rapidity of the usurpation of our rights was unimaginable. The things that they did in courts, throwing people in gulags, was never talked about. Now they're talked about with impunity. It's okay. They're enemy combatants. They're this, they're that. We can violate the Constitution. And I've always said, the Constitution, you can't just pick pieces of it that you want to uphold and not uphold. You uphold it. You want to change it, you do it properly. But you do it properly. You do it lawfully. You don't tell me that you've got an emergency that you created that's going to allow you to make these changes. But that's what they're doing now. We're not angry enough. I'm angry, but why am I alone?
Well, you had 700 cities stirred up by the right-wing bloviators on radio that got their listeners inflamed and angry. They took their little flags and waved them, and, you know, they were angry, and they demonstrated and had signs. There will be a demonstration at Washington's Crossing this Sunday. There'll be a big one led by Joe Vento of Geno Steaks and my dear friend Christine Flowers and Dom Giordano and some politician from New Jersey, and they'll have their little flags and their tea bags, and it will be a catharsis for those people who are too dumb to realize that they are being duped.
It's bread and circus is what it is.
Well, as I said on Wednesday night, I don't know whether you heard the program or went to the archives, what we have in America with this tea bag revolution that I do believe is even government organized. I do not believe it is spontaneous. Similar to the 1968 Democratic Convention with the Chicago 7, when they realized that after a complete investigation, there were Asian provocateurs in the riots that stirred up the crowd. Well, you have the same thing, in my opinion, with the Asian provocateurs stirring up this crowd, because if you have a hot water boiler, Howard, and it runs wild with heat, they put a pressure valve on the top, didn't they? And that lets the steam out. Well, that's what the teabag demonstrations around the country are. That is the escape valve that the government has put on there, the pressure valve, to relieve the pressure. And after the pressure is released and the steam is all blown out, the people will go back to their ways next week and do the same thing, and they will pay their taxes, and they will listen to the bloviators, and they'll come up with some other scheme fomented by the government to let the steam out. We had the support the troop rallies right after we went into Iraq, and we had all these people on flatbed tractor trailers around the country and waving flags, and we had flags on our cars, and we had the little emblems that are still on there to support our troops. But we're still there 7 years, 8 years later with the same amount of troops, 130,000 troops. So this is, in my opinion, if you believe that the 9/11 was committed by the government, which there is always a possibility, Howard. I'm not denying it. I'm just saying the information that I've received and investigated leaves a question as to who and really what happened to those World Trade Center buildings.
Let me tell you very quickly,
I don't want to
say that they did it.
Well, wait, before we go, let's be rational about what government has done in this country. It has given blankets to the Indians with typhoid fever in it, with scarlet fever. So the Indians died from it, the indigenous people who we stole the land from. They put syphilis into black prisoners' bodies and food to see how long it would take for a person to die from syphilis. That was done by the government.
Children, they irradiated retarded children.
Well, they do a lot of they did the swine flu vaccine that was supposed to be the cure-all for all type of diseases. So government can do those things. The Reichstag fire was not committed by the Reichstag fire in Germany was not committed by the communists. They set it on fire by the Nazis to blame the communists. So the fact is that this government has done this before in America, and people have excused it. They blew up. We had a mayor in Philadelphia that burnt 61 homes to the ground, burnt to death 11 people, and the people re-elected Mayor Wilson Good the following election. We killed 160.
Allow me to ask you one question.
Sure.
I know what the government is capable of, and I know what they've done. I know what we know what they've done. There are things that we think they've done that we're not sure of. But here's the question. When I was talking with the John Birch Society and the people from the John Birch Society, they always said that they were going to accomplish their mission one person at a time. Okay. I don't know that we have time for one person at a time. But what is it that we can do to wake the people up? Because the teabag thing is a distraction.
It's a teabag thing. It's a joke.
Knows that.
It's a joke.
What do we do? Well, I'm asking you. What do we do to make this stop? Because it's not working.
You know, there was a guy over 2,000 years ago named Jesus Christ, who probably was as frustrated as you were and as angry as you were. And nobody followed him then. Now everybody is applauding Jesus. Well, where were the people that condemned him and criticized him? I mean, those politicians, the money people, the people of power. What happened to many patriots of America? Patrick Henry, what's his name? The Free Thought Society, Thomas Paine. All great people who have seen it are killed and eliminated, and the people support the killing and the elimination. My dear friend, if the American people could tolerate 55,000 people dying and and women dying in Vietnam on a no-win war, knowing full well that the French warned them not to go into Vietnam, and then we had Korea and then Vietnam, and now we've got Iraq. There is no hope, because the series of stupidity is perpetuated generation after generation after generation, Howard. And
but how do we stop it?
How
do we get ourselves out?
You can't. It is impossible to stop it until you have a public that finally realizes it's affecting me. There's 300 million people in America with 9 million unemployed. That means there are 82% of the working people in America still working. The ball games are sold out. The hockey games are sold out. They're paying $300 for a ticket to see some rock star. So, and the casinos are doing billions of dollars worth of business, Howard. Now, how do you stop that insane, idiotic snowball? By being frustrated and angry. All you can do is realize that the American public, like public all around the world, is being suckered and stupefied either by religion on hoping that God is going to save them, or that things are not going to affect them, or they're not going to get cancer, they're not going to need stem cell research until it hits them. And then they form a foundation, and then he can't understand, why aren't people following me? So Howard,
when the people realize it, Irv, it's
but the hell with the people. The hell with the people.
When they realize
they're not going to
for all of us.
They're not going to realize it. The worst part about this type of involvement in the history of mankind is, Howard, is that lies and deception are more acceptable than the truth. For example, the president of Mexico, when the president was just there, said something that I said 3 weeks ago. He said that the problem with the drug cartels in Mexico is not Mexico's problem, it's America's problem. And I heard the bloviators, how dare that Mexico corruption and blah, 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 blah. Well, if the American drug heads wouldn't use drugs, the drug dealers in Mexico wouldn't sell it, would they? I had a woman call me. She's outraged over the fact that she got a ticket for going 18 miles an hour over the speed limit of 25, and she was angry with the cop, and she called her state representative. Lady, it was your fault. You went over the speed limit. Now, if you can get through that rationale, Howard, your frustration and my frustration may be recognized. But first you do is you clear your own head, as you've done, as I've done, as Raleigh has done, probably as Alex Jones has done, and know how to protect yourself in light of all of the stupidity that is going on in the country today.
Okay, well, then let me...
So don't try...
How do I protect myself?
Well,
how do I do it?
Well, I've had seminars, I've been guest speakers at many places. I don't do it anymore because I say the hell with the people. There should be a law against stupidity, and 2/3 of America would be in jail. So if people are stupid enough to spend money on things they can't afford, to run up credit card debts for $40,000 on a credit card, go absolutely insane with fancy automobiles they can't afford, and lose their houses, what the hell do I care? I'm not guilty of it. I don't blow my money in the casino. I don't buy things I can't afford. I have no credit card debt, so screw them. What should I worry about them for?
Do you think that you're going to be able to survive in
Yes.
a society
Yes.
that is completely decimated financially?
Yes.
How? Tell me how you're going to do it. How are you going to live on? Are you going to stay in the United States? Or are you going to leave?
No,
I don't know where to go.
No, I will stay right here in the United States, and I will laugh at the folks who are stupid enough to get themselves involved with two homes that they can't afford, cars they can't afford, clothes they can't afford, schools that they send their kids to they can't afford, babysitters they can't afford, medical coverage they can't afford. What the hell do I? Am I my brother's keeper? I'm not a Christian, Howard. I am not my brother's keeper. If my brother is an ass, that's his problem, not mine. And don't lay that guilt trip on me as they try to do. You're your brother's keeper, and you have to. I don't have to do a damn thing except save myself, my family, and my loved ones. And there are ways to do it, and you should be smart enough to be able to know how to do it, to have valuable assets, to create wealth instead of money. Wealth is always negotiable around the world. For example...
What makes you... Okay, wealth like what? Wealth like gold? Wealth like silver? What are we talking about?
Gold can be confiscated, and gold goes up to 1,000, it goes down to 700, it goes to 300, it goes to 200. Gold, money loses its value. You have a Rembrandt painting. You can take that painting all around the world and sell it for millions of whatever the currency of that country is. People do not know the difference between wealth and money. Wealth never loses its value. Money does. Gold does. Silver does. Confiscation, you never heard of any government confiscating art. You never heard of government confiscating wealth. You've heard of them confiscating money and things that can be exchanged for money. And government can confiscate gold tomorrow. But they would
I've heard of government stealing art. The Germans.
Well, it was during, and the German people allowed them to do it because they were as stupid as the American people. You know, on the air yesterday, I apologized to the German people. I apologize to the Nazis. I apologize to the communists of Russia. I apologize to all the people who suffered under a dictatorship because the American people never learned anything from them. And so the American people are doing exactly the same thing that the Germans did with Nazism, the Russians did with communism, all over the world, in China, Indonesia, Indochina, wherever it was. The people are people the same all over the world. So why do we condemn the Nazis for following Hitler when we're following these boobuses that we elect into office?
And we're going to do the same thing that happened in Nazi Germany.
And there were rich people who survived the Nazi regime. There were wealthy people. You know that they have more billionaires today in communist Russia than they ever had before? And in China?
Yes, I know that.
So the fact is, Howard, don't frustrate yourself on stupidity of the masses with their little flags and their tea bags. What you do is have another tea bag demonstration next year on April the 15th, but during the year, buy stock in Tetley Tea or Lipton. And then promote the tea bag revolution. But don't frustrate yourself, my dear friend, by worrying about stupid people. I have no sympathy for some guy who goes to the casino and loses his fortune, loses his home, and spends his kid's bar mitzvah money. I don't give a rat's ass about him. He's an idiot. He's stupid. The same as a drunk or a drug user. The government doesn't put drugs in your arm. The government doesn't force you to go to the casino. The government doesn't force you to extend yourself on a credit card. So what the hell should I care about them for? What I resent is that the government then wants to take my money and your money to pay off their stupid business. Then I have a right to object. So if you want to object, suppose 700 cities around the country didn't pay their taxes this April 15th. You think that would get the attention of the government?
Momentarily.
No. If 8 or 9 million people, and I'm not advocating because I don't want no nitwit IRS guy coming like I did in the 80s. But simple logic says, if you really believe in something, if you're firmly committed to something, then why would you do it? Why do they feed the beast on April the 15th instead of taking their little flags and singing God Bless America and Obama's a bum and Bush was a great guy and the right wing is good and the left wing is no good? It's all bullshit, Howard. And when you realize it, you will survive. But I've given up my point of frustration with the masses. I've given it up. I do not support sponsors of radio programs that advertise with these idiots. I don't intend to feed the beast. If I disagree with someone on the air, why should I buy things from their sponsor? That's my own personal. Why should I buy things from their sponsor to feed that beast? But people who disagree with these people will even buy their products. On one hand, I'll give you an example. I'm listening to Limbaugh coming to work, going to work this week. Hello? Are you there?
No, I'm still here. I'm going to mute out for a second.
All right. I'll make it real simple. Limbaugh is talking about the fact that the government is now bailing out for you. Don't pay your car loan. Ford will pay the car loan for you, or General Motors will pay for a year. And I don't want my tax dollars paying for somebody who's stupid. I turn over to Sean Hannity the next at 3:00. Right? You know what he's saying? You got to buy American.
I wouldn't know because I don't listen to
Well, I'm saying, I'm a talk show. I got to listen to what the enemy is saying. He's advocating buying General Motors cars. Limbaugh just got done saying he don't want the people to subsidize your car payment. This other right-wing nut Hannity, and they both profess to be patriots, are in 100% opposition to one another, and yet the boobus people don't know the difference. So how do you deal with that kind of stupidity, Howard? Tell me how do you...
Let me tell you something, Irv. The idiots that profess to be patriots stuffed my relatives into ovens. The same people.
Right.
And the same people in this country are going to do this the same or worse.
They did it.
It's not going to be any different.
Well, ask the Japanese Americans whether the government can put them in ovens or not.
Of course not, because they don't play by the rules. There is no constitution protecting anybody, because obviously there was no habeas corpus back then, because these were Americans. Don't start me on that one, because that's another one that gets me going.
No, they were Americans. They were Japanese Americans, full citizens.
They were Americans.
And they were...
I don't care where they came from. They were Americans.
That's right. They were incarcerated. And if the Jews in America think that they're safe from an incarceration... If the Middle East blows up, they're out of their minds. That's why when I go to synagogues and say, how many of you Jews are armed here? They're, no. You know, the Jews have this, I said, well, honey, I could go on and on that point forever.
I'm at a Jewish Y at the moment because I got my kid in school there. And if I told you if I told you some of the conversations, it would make your blood boil. It makes my blood boil.
No,
How many emails have you gotten from Jews who send you all the Holocaust remembrances and tell you to send it to all your Jewish friends? And I send the emails back to them. And I said, stop sending it to the Jews because they don't give a damn. Send it to the other people who don't know.
If the Jews in Germany would have had weapons, there wouldn't have been any Nazis. Ask the people in the Polish ghetto who had very few weapons but held the German army off. Ask the Serbs who held off the Russians during World War II because they had weapons. But Jews are their worst enemy. They could end up in American concentration camps if the Middle East blows up. Howard, I must run. Thank you for calling, my dear friend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our telephone number, 215-253-8877. We turn your computer down, please, if you're on the phone.
I turned it down the minute I saw you answer me. Hi, Irv. This is Arlene.
Hi, Arlene.
I'm calling you to blow off steam also, but I didn't go to the teapot one, so this is my chance to blow off steam, I guess. I turned the radio on today when I was I have to turn it off after, I put one of those stations on for 5 minutes because the idiotic stuff coming out of these people's mouths, I don't know how they have an audience. This was on 710. I don't even know the bloviator's name. This was around 5:30, 6 o'clock today.
It's WOR in New York.
I'm sorry?
It's WOR out of New York.
Yeah, it's WOR out of New York, but I don't know the radio show talk host's name. What he said was that President Obama said something. Somebody asked him about the Pope, the current Pope, and he wouldn't comment on it. He said no comment because somebody had said that this Pope was not the right kind of Pope or wasn't a good Pope or something like that. And Barack Obama refused to comment on it. He said no comment. So this bloviator accuses Barack Obama. It says, well, if it was a Muslim cleric, then he would have said the Muslim cleric was good. I mean, how do they know what Barack Obama would have said without saying anything? In other words, he was trying to associate him again as being a Muslim, without saying it directly. That's one. Do I get a chance to do two more?
Sure, we don't have a 2-minute time limit on this program.
Well, thank you very much, because I just heard you talking, which I didn't plan to talk about these people with their credit cards. I feel like I'm the one that's been a schmuck because I have been responsible and frugal and paid my bills, and I don't have wealth and I don't have money either, so I don't have to worry about anybody taking anything away from me, but I know I will survive because I've done it up until now and I'll do it again. But I know people who have run their credit cards up and then declare bankruptcy. And they've done it more than once. I'm sorry, so who's the one that's stupid? Us? That are paying our bills?
Well, it's a system of people say that those who run their credit card up are greedy. Well, the people in America who sell stuff and allow the credit to go to the extreme it does, they're the ones that are greedy.
I know, but I'm going to end up paying for the people who have done 2 and 3 bankruptcies.
Well, don't use your credit card. I don't make the credit card company rich. I did in the beginning when I bought stock in Bank of America, and I bought stock in Visa, and I bought stock in those companies. But once I saw I made the money that I wanted to make, and I got out. I don't use credit cards. I'm sorry, I don't use them.
Well, yeah, I know, but we're paying for it anyway when they gave Bank of America card and Barclays taxpayer dollars.
But we're still
paying for it.
But you still see, people should only buy the things they need, not the things they want.
Of course, but what I'm saying
and
when other people have bought things that they don't need and they don't pay their bills, and now we have paid for it in our tax dollars. They are taking our money in tax dollars to bail out the banks to make good for the people who have not paid their bills. So we still end up paying for it, even if we use cash only.
But the debt that is being accumulated now with this bailout and TARP money and stimulus money is projected income in the anticipated revenue. And it will not affect you or me. It may affect your children and your grandchildren. And my answer is, so what? Because I heard, now wait a minute, I heard this business prior to World War II. It's going to affect, do you think my father cared that I was in debt after he passed away from the government? And I don't, these are my kids. It's up my kids to take up the fight. It's up to your kids to take up the fight. Right. It's up to somebody else. I'm going to be dead. I'm not going to sit and worry what the government's going to do after I'm dead. I've given it the best shot while I'm here. I'm not going to worry about it. Yeah, and to hear this crap that our children are the most precious thing in America, that's baloney, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't have mandatory education. Exactly. The kids are not our valuable thing because the government forces you to send them to school. How many people do you think would send their kids to school if education wasn't mandatory? How many people raise their own kids and do not send them to daycare centers and send them to nannies and send them to babysitters and send them to in my neighborhood, you have two things. You either have over 55 development homes where 55 and older, or you have day camps. That's my neighborhood. That's the three things. The casino in my neighborhood, the old fart villages, and the babysitters. That's my neighborhood. That's the growth industry in America today.
And then there's us, the people who pay attention to what's going on in the world, and we are few and far between. Yeah, can I give you one more?
Sure.
Being from over my 2-minute limit.
Sure. No, we have no limit on this program. I can go till midnight if I want to.
I turn these programs on, and the minute I hear them start to talk, Irv, I have to hit the snooze button to turn them off. Glenn Beck came on the other morning at 10 o'clock.
Another idiot.
I didn't say that, you did. But he's complaining, he's trying to make it like equal, that he's complaining about the Republicans equally with the Democrats. So the thing that he's complaining about with President Bush is that he passed Medicare Part D. Well, let me tell you something about Medicare Part D. I ended up, because I couldn't afford my blood pressure medicine, and I was breaking the pills in half, and I was walking around hypertensive, I ended up in the hospital by ambulance 7 times. Now, what did that cost? And, of course, I couldn't pay any bills because I'm living on Social Security. How much did that cost for them to drive me back and forth in an ambulance, paid for by the taxpayers, plus emergency overnight care compared to a $10 prescription per month? Which is a more cost-effective way to go? That was the word.
Of course, to provide free medical care in this country.
Right.
Socialized medicine, the big scary thing. Imagine providing medical care to human beings when there are more laws to protect the dog that the president just adopted. There are more laws to protect animals in America than there are to protect human beings. But, they're going to get free medical care. They're going to, as I said to Howard, I apologize to the German people for accepting Nazism and the Russians for accepting communism because the Pied Pipers on radio today are the Pied Pipers that are leading the lemmings over the cliff. Arlene, thank you so much for calling. I want to go to the chat room.
Goodbye.
Thank you, hon. There's a frustration out here of real people, not the flag-waving teabag throwers and not the windbags. But there's real serious folks out there who see the fraud of what's going on in the means of communication. And it's no secret. To the chat room, what is the purpose that anyone who had the inside track on tapping the wealth of the U.S. to destroy the USA as of September the 11th? Well, if you read one of the books that I suggested that you don't read, called The Report from Iron Mountain, The Feasibility of War and Peace, if you take a look at legislation that has ever been passed during a national emergency, such as a war, you will see that though that type of legislation could never get passed during peacetime. And so governments have been known to institute national disasters, such as wars, insurrections, riots, so that this emergency legislation could be passed through. For example, the CIA was created Central Intelligence Agency to inform and to spy on foreign governments. Great idea. The only trouble is, they used it to spy on us. Loyal American citizens who were not terrorists, who had no intention of overthrowing the government. So the road to hell sometimes is paved with good intentions. And when these good intention bills are passed, it's important to analyze them and say, well, what's the other side? Unfortunately, you don't get the other side presented on the bloviators today that enjoy millions and millions of stupid-ass Americans who will be waving their tea bags this Sunday and this Saturday, tomorrow. To me, it's frightening. This is the same mobs that supported Adolf Hitler, the same mobs that supported Joe Stalin, the same mobs that supported Mao, the same mobs that supported Ho Chi Minh, the same mobs that supported Marcos, the same mob mentality that supported Somoza. Mobs are mobs. They don't think for themselves. They have to have a stimulus, and that stimulus is the windbags on radio and television today. And of course, they're on loan from... Oh, excuse me, my back hurts. Do you have my Oxycontin ready? Geez, I played golf today with my sore back, and I had... where's our housekeeper, Ron? Is she... You know that...
I think she's out at the pharmacy.
Oh, no, she's on the... Listen, get down to and see if you can get me that hot Oxycontin, please. Because this program is on loan from God. Now, we ought to put all the drugs... Oh, boy, that's great. That Oxycontin really cut in. Well, here we are. I only use half my brain to do this program. The other half's tied behind me. You know why he says that? Because he knows his listeners are horses there. Like, can you imagine a talk show host who tells his stupid audience he only uses half his brain to talk to them? Is there anyone out there that agrees with me that that is an insult to an audience? The talk show host says, I have half my brain tied behind me to make it even, which means his whole audience of 20 million people have a half a brain. Now, these are the half a brainiacs that are waving their flags in support of him and Hannity and them other nitwits. Don't anybody see that except me? The man insults his listeners every day by saying he does his program with half his brain tied behind him to make it even. So his audience has a half a brain. And these are the people that'll be with the flags and singing America the Beautiful. I don't get it. Irv, if the people wanted to protest the tax system, why they did not protest the arrest of Ed and Elaine Brown? I do not know Ed and Elaine Brown. I don't know whether they were tax protesters or whether they were evaders. See, the tax law says you can avoid paying taxes legally, but you can't evade them. And there have been a lot of people who have outwardly evaded and dared the government to get them. That is not the way to do it. So if you send me some information on Ed and Elaine Brown, I could possibly report to you more authentically why they didn't protest the arrest of Ed and Elaine Brown. In the past, in the 1980 tax protest movement, which was not to eliminate taxes, but to eliminate the 16th Amendment, which is unconstitutional, even though the government says they have tested the constitutionality of it. And Howard is right. We don't live by the Constitution. We don't live by it. It's just a bunch of words that literalists like me and Raleigh James and libertarians have supported for years, that if it says something in the Constitution, they probably put it there because they meant it. And that kind of boggles my mind. The 13th Amendment is very simple. But I know what 90 million people in America would say, oh, that don't mean that, Irv. Okay? Let me just read what the Constitution says about the 13th Amendment, and I can prove to you that my present employer, the owners of WWD, the owners of ABC, NBC, CBS, are all criminals. Now, if the bloviators want to do something, why don't they get and lock up ABC, NBC, CBS, and all of the networks? Because their owners are criminals. And why do I say that? Well, Article 13 of the Constitution. What does it say here? Oh, yes. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the parties shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Now, to me that means that you cannot be made a slave or force you to do anything by government edict unless you have been convicted of a crime. So as an employer, when I was an employer, I had to be a tax collector, as my boss is today, as the owners of WWDB, as the owners of ABC that I work for, Channel 6. They must be criminals. And if you're an employer, you are a criminal by the definition of the Constitution, because you are working for the government as a tax collector against your will, and you did not commit any crime. Is this on? Is it getting through to you? Do you understand why I apologize to the Nazis? No employer in the United States should be a tax collector for the United States government unless they volunteer. And now I heard the nitwit Limbaugh. Oh, my Oxycontin is running out. I need another Oxycontin for my back. Oh, thank you very much. I'm not a drug addict. I'm against drug addicts. They all want to be in jail, but I need one for my back. I got to play golf this afternoon and fly my private jet. So here my boss is concerned about law and order, and he's a criminal. Howard, don't be frustrated, my dear friend, for years. When you have employers who are willing to work for the government against their will in involuntary servitude, do you think there is help out there, my dear friend? If you interpret the tax laws, it is the government's responsibility to assess you, charge you, and you pay your taxes. That's the law. So Limbaugh, the lame brain Oxycontin with a vernacular in his ear because he went deaf from being a drug addict, says, and now the government's going to do your taxes for you. Well, you stupid ass, that's the law. The individual taxpayer, the individual employer, it is not their responsibility to fill out a form on a law that said it's voluntary compliance. Howard, you want to be frustrated? Sit in my seat behind a microphone for all these years and try to talk to the stupid asses. Accountants are complicit in this. Lawyers are complicit in it. Employers are complicit in it. Where the 16th Amendment violates the 13th Amendment against slavery or involuntary servitude. And there is a way to change it by repealing the 16th Amendment and writing a constitutional tax law. It is not my employer's responsibility to collect taxes from me to pay to the government. When did he commit a crime? But Boobas America will pick its nose and scratch its ass and go to the casinos. And Howard will be frustrated, and Alex Jones will be frustrated, and Raleigh James will be frustrated, and I'll be frustrated. But Boobas America, as long as it gets its six-pack of beer and the rich can buy their mink coats and their diamonds and their Jaguars, and screw the poor people of America, they don't give a rat's ass. I just sit back and laugh. I want to thank all the windbag bloviators because you have introduced me to my CD player in my cars. I now listen to music. I was listening to Barbra Streisand. I was listening to a psychiatrist today. Been listening to 2 of his tapes called The Heart Code that explains how your body works, which is certainly more informative on how your body works than listening to those asses and getting frustrated. And look how when you ask serious stuff, the lines die. Same thing happens in commercial radio. I asked the questions today, I'll ask it now. We have about 10 minutes. Was John McCain tortured during his 6 years of incarceration? The bloviators are screaming about the fact that Obama will not deal with torture and closing Abu Ghraib, and which they already closed, and closing Guantanamo Bay, and it's all right to waterboard and do all this stuff that is not torture. Well, under the Bush administration, why didn't they waterboard Mumia Abu Jamal to find out whether or not he killed Officer Danny Faulkner? Now, I heard my dear buddy Michael Smarcana saying, I don't care what they do to them as long as we get information from them. And I don't consider extremes in getting information from criminals. Well, Michael, you made a lot of money writing a book about the death of Danny Faulkner and the trials of Mumia Abu Jamal. Why didn't you suggest on your program that since you don't think waterboarding is torture, why didn't you suggest that they waterboard Mumia? Huh? Hello? Boggles my mind. So I asked this question to this audience, how large or how small it may be. Was John McCain tortured by the Vietnamese in the 6 years that he was incarcerated? You want to learn something? Go to John McCain's website and check out, link over to Prisoner and see what John McCain did when he was a prisoner. Okay? Do that. And then ask yourself a question. Why would the Republican Party suggest him to be the President of the United States? Rush Limbaugh couldn't take pain in his back. He had to go and get illegal drugs. How much torture do you think Rush Limbaugh could take? He would see a knife. He'd give away the family jewels, the secrets of his sex life. Yet he's on the air. Waterboarding's not torture. Guy can't take pain in his back. He had to go to illegal drugs and get doped up, then go to rehab for 30 days. Person called me, why do you pick on these guys? I will pick on the Limbaugh because he picks on me. He picks on me for being in the same business that he's in. That he's the only brain behind the microphone. His is the truth. He's on God's side. So as long as Limbaugh insults me as one of the originators of talk radio in America, I will pick on him till the day I die or he dies, whichever one goes first. I don't take no crap from anybody if I'm right. I don't bow to no man. Not in this country. I don't bow to the IRS. I don't bow to the president. If I'm right, I'm right. I'll take my due lumps. More Americans should do it instead of waving your silly little flag tomorrow. Stop using that flag that I cherish and value and fought for as a shield to prove your patriotism. Do something patriotic. Go to jail because you didn't pay your taxes. And do it proudly. Then you'll be a patriot. Waving your flag and putting it on your car and putting it on your lawn don't mean shit to me. Doesn't make you a patriot. Makes you a damn yellow-belly coward is what it does. Sing your songs and pray your prayers. But are you brave enough to stand up for what you believe in? No! Howard, you want to be frustrated, my dear friend? Sit behind a microphone like I've done all those years. I asked the question, was John McCain tortured during his 6 years? And I will leave you with a question because I'm going to end the program now. Because I know you're either dead between the ears or you're tuned out because you can't stand the truth. I'm going to ask you a question. Your son, your daughter, may have volunteered for duty. 130,000 troops in Afghanistan and in Iraq. Possibly some incurred into Pakistan. Now let me ask you a question. Let this sink in good, mother and dad, wives and husbands of those who are in combat. If the warlords of the Northern Alliance in Afghanistan that are supporting the Taliban and Al-Qaeda capture your son or daughter, they're not under the Geneva Convention. They never signed on to the Geneva Convention. They can, with immunity, cut their head off, cut their arm off, cut their bowels out, cut their breasts off, put a baseball bat in their vagina, and there isn't one damn international law that you can use to prosecute them. So sleep well tonight, dear patriotic Americans. And think that 130,000 or more troops in Afghanistan and Iraq and about 160,000 citizens working over there, if they get captured by Al-Qaeda or the Taliban, who are not signatories to the Geneva Convention, can cut, mutilate, and destroy that body that you gave birth to, changed its shitty diapers, watched it grow, watched it burp when you burped it and threw up on your suit when you were going out to dinner. That little cherished baby that you loved, who grew up to be a man or woman, who is now serving in the wilds of Afghanistan or Iraq or Pakistan, can be cut down with a knife, a bayonet, shot to hell, paraded in the streets, and there isn't one international law that can prosecute them under. Sleep well, my dear American friends. I'm Irv Homer, is who I am. Monday night, I will be taking off. I have an important board meeting to go. Tune in for the Ron Tech program at 8 o'clock on Monday night. Get your questions answered about your computers. I do love each and every one of you, but if you're an ass, I don't feel sorry for you. If you've listened to me long enough over the years, you're secure. If you thought I was just on the air for entertainment, that's your tough luck. See ya.